Vijay, yeah.
Right. Share my screen. All right. So today's topic is we are going to discuss L3 out, which is how to configure how to establish the external connectivity with the ACI. Okay. So let me open the drawing as well as layer 3 connectivity. Right. So layer 3 out is what? Layer 3 out is to provide the external connectivity to your ACI fabric. When I say the external connectivity to ACI, so unlike the traditional architecture where you configure L3 out or the external connectivity to the the core device or to the core router, here uh, just mute yourself for some please. Prashant. Okay, let me mute it. Sorry. All right. So, what is the external connectivity? So, unlike the traditional one, where we had if you want to make the external connectivity, you have to do it via the either a core device or via the distribution devices and with the core router, right? Here in ACI, something we call that border leaf switches. This is just a name. It's not any dedicated switch or dedicated model number. No. Uh, Basically, if you have a too much routing part in your data center, then suggested that you go with the specific hardware which is the higher routing table support, IPv4 table support. Cisco has specific devices which are designed for that. Okay, and that switch basically be named. This is just a name. It's not the anything else. This is just a name. We call that device as a border leaf switches. The switches which are acting as a border device to the external network. Okay. So here, suppose I have a one switch where I have connected to the one ISP, can be the ISP, can be the service provider, can be your DWDM, can be your dark fiber, whatever it is. Okay. Internet connectivity we do not give via the spine switches. That's the first principle of ACI. Okay. There is an option you can do it, but for this scenario, we do not prefer to do it. Okay. That because that configuration is too complicated to achieve it. You have to do a lot of QoS, you have to do a lot of other configuration in order to achieve that connectivity. But if you have a internet or anything like that, you can directly connect it to the leaf switches. If you have MPLS or anything, definitely there are multiple scenario where you can achieve this scenario. But as of now, we are going to talk about how to connect leaf, how to provide internet access, ISP, access to the your network. Whether you have a server connected to over here, something connected to over here, how to provide the connectivity. Okay. L3 out is not just specific to the internet. Suppose you have one firewall like this, firewall connected to it, or can be the load balancer, LB. You can also establish the routing between them. That also we call that layer 3 out. So there are multiple use cases of the L3 out. First use case is to provide the ISP, internet connectivity. Second use case is you can connect your firewall, load balancer, anything like that, like this one. Okay. I have suppose EXXI devices where I have a couple of VMs and I have external router where I have internet. So between here to here, you have a certain protocol. You can have the static routing, you can have the EIGRP, you can have the BGP, you can have the OSPF. Okay, you cannot run the RIP protocol over here. Okay, and these interfaces, whatever possible interface you have in legacy environment, like sub interface, routed interface, SVI, all these type of interface, a floating IP, one more extra feature has been introduced into the ACI called that floating SVI. It means between the two switches you have virtual IP, just like HSRP, where you can form the neighborship. Okay, so suppose this is the scenario I have. This is the scenario I have. I have 1/5 interface. Okay, and I want to establish the OSPF area 0 between the leaf and my external router. Okay, and this is the IP address I have, and let's do it, this configuration. So very first thing is, before we talk further into it, there we go. Oh man, please. Oh, finally. Okay, if I open the Epic, over here, and I have, for example, admin SCO 1 2 3 4 5. Let me fix this screen first. To close this. ACI setup. Close this page. From here also you can do the basic setup of ACI. I will go to the fabric and discover all the leaf switches and spine switches. (101) LF101 register. Let's wait for the nodes to register. It's taking a bit longer. Okay, finally. It has got the IP address. Let's wait for status to become active. Meanwhile, so I have a spine now. I will go for 104. Spine 104. Same thing I'm gonna do for 103 is fine. One zero three. Let's wait for them to be registered. This is the scenario one for the L3Out. Okay, I have just single router, single interface. I'm trying to establish that there is no VPC, no port channel, nothing. Just single, everything is straightforward. Single connectivity. Okay. Okay. These three have got registered. Let's wait for switch to. Okay. Leave to. I'm gonna say 102 LF 102. Okay. So the very first thing is what I'm going to do here is let me open the cheat sheet which I have for the L3Out to make it shortcut. Give you the just point to point overview rather than just wasting too much time. Okay. So L3Out is what? L3Out is to provide the connectivity to the external network. When I say the external network, it can be MPLS, it can be, suppose if you have multiple branch sites, right, and which are non-ACI, something like that. And so you can connect to the your leaf switches to your MPLS or dark fiber direct connect and provide the connectivity to all the servers which are hosted in ACI to the legacy branch offices or to ACI to the branch offices, vice versa, right? You can have a multiple protocols to establish that connectivity. Uh, this is the overall logical architecture of the ACI layer 3 out. Very first thing is we need to prepare the access policy. Access policy going to be same if the L3 out is you're configuring using the routed port. Routed port means on the interface of the leaf you're going to assign the IP. You do not need a VLAN pool. Simple. If the you are using SBI sub interface or something different or floating SBI something, then you need to create the VLAN pool for it because you need to have a VLAN to create or to do that kind of configuration. Under the tenant, un we have a layer 3 out. Okay, in the layer 3 out, what options we have? BGP, OSPF, EIGRP plus static route, static default route. You can do it. You need to create the logical node profile. You need to create the logical interface profile. You have to tell on which node, which interface you want to configure the particular protocol, whether it's a EIGRP, OSP, whatever it is. You have to tell which node, which interface you want to assign the IP address, and you want to create the particular protocol policies to for external communication. So very first thing is if you see that here, this is the layer 3, plain layer 3 of design. You have a user VRF, which is any VRF. You have a layer 3 out, you're trying to establish the external connectivity. Forget about the anything which is showing over here, which is the SVI and all these things. Okay, this is just a plain standalone server WAN connectivity. Okay, the very first thing is what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create the access policy. In the access policy, flow is the same. For my scenario, I do not have anything SVI. I just want to have a simple 1/5 interface of 101 switch with the OSPF area 0. I don't want to create any kind of uh, profile. Okay, so let me mm, just give me a second. Let me create one topology for you to make sure that we do not get confused over here. This is the router. Right. Here we go. Okay. Scenario is I have a 1 gig interface connecting to the 1/1/5 routed port. Okay. And IP is 192.168.101.0/24/2030, and it can be anything. Okay, it's up to your requirement how you want to define it. And MTU size I want to give it 1500 for my router. Okay, and I want to run over here particular OSPF, which is the OSPF area 0. OSPF area 0. And I have MPBGP EVPN over here and route reflector on the spine switch. On the spine switch, I will create the access policy. In the access policy, I will create the layer 3 out domain. Then I will create the AEP. Why layer 3 out domain? Because I have to tell my interface policy group, you belong to the particular device type. Okay. So my interface policy group does not treat this key I have server connected or anything like that. So I will go into the interface policy group. Come on. Interface policy group, which we call the PG. And in that, I will say the 1 gig. I have auto on. Then AEP is, I'm going to say that L3 out. AEP name is L3 out, okay? Because I'm just going to create the AEP name is L3 out. You can use existing AEP also. It doesn't matter. You do not need to create the AEP for each device type. You can have single AEP for everything. Then I'm going to use the interface profile 1/5 where I'm going to associate this policy group. Okay, then I'm going to select the node profile. Where I'm going to call the interface profile under the node profile.
A node profile, nothing but switch profile, right?
It's a switch profile, yes. So you can see the switch profile. We also call various type of name we give it, right? It depends on our convenience. So this is all we have to do. Here, if it is the just routed port, what interface policy group you need to create? Access policy group. Okay. You do not create port channel or the VPC because that is a pure one single non-dual home connectivity. Okay. Without any other thing. So in the domain, I will create the L3 domain. I want to tell this interface you are going to be used for you have a router connected to which you are going to use for I'm going to say that L3 router ISP. Okay. There is no VLAN domain. I don't need to create it. Submit it. Then I will create the AAP. If you have already AAP, go to the AAP and associate this domain. I will create one AAP. Okay, I will say that L3 out AAP. Okay, I will uncheck the associate interface for now. I will create the associate the L3 out, L3 domain, which I have. Submit. Then I will go to the interface, leave policy group. In the policy group, you have access port because I have a single home with the non-VLAN requirement. You can use access port for the access port also, trunk port also. As long as one interface is connecting to your switch or the router or the server, you treat that as an access port. Access port policy group doesn't mean it's an access port, okay? It could be the routed port, it could be the trunk port, it could be the access port or edge port. Okay, this is the type of connectivity. I will say that L3Out ISP. Okay, I just want to create the unique access policy group, so everyone in the team should be able to identify that, okay, I should not touch this access policy group and do not use anywhere else, because this is reserved for the L3Out of the ISP. Link I can give here 1 giga to this default, whatever it is created. I'm not getting any policy. LLDP, I just say that usually for ISP it should be disabled, so I'm keeping as disabled. CDP also should be disabled. On submit. Okay, then I will go to the interface profile and I will create that one profile for the particular leaf switches, because it's a non BPC leaf 101 interface profile. Which interface I want to call under here? I will say that E5 Ethernet 5 1/5. Which policy group? I have created one L3Out ISP. Submit. So during the interface profile creation, I created the interface also. So interface profile you do not create for each interface. You just keep adding those interfaces under the profile now. Okay. Just like a node profile, switch profile, you do not create multiple times. You create one time and associate your interface profile under it. I will say that switch profile, switch profile 101. 101. Which leaf switch I want to use? Leaf 1. So whatever interface profile associate to it, it should be reflect under this leaf. So access policy is done for me. I don't have to do anything else. This is you have to do for all the things, all the L3Out. Whether you have BPC, if you have BPC, just one thing will change. BPC interface. If you have port shell interface. Policy group will change. If it is a BPC, then interface profile will change also. It will go to the leaf 1 and 2 both. Okay, if it is a port shell, it will go just to 1. So what I'm going to do here is I will go into the tenant now, because the physical connectivity is done for me. Now what I need to do here is I need to do the logical configuration. The logical configuration I have requirement is I have a one tenant. Okay. A tenant name is, for example, DMZ, where I have usually we do not create that ISP in the DMZ. I'm going to use a common tenant, existing tenant I'm going to use here is VRF. I can create here is, for example, ISP or shared. Whatever you're going to create under the common tenant, it's called that shared policy. So this layer 3 out will be called as a shared layer 3 out. It means anyone in the network can utilize this layer 3 out to reach the outside. Suppose if you have DMZ tenant or non-DMZ tenant, pro tenant, those tenants want to reach to the internet, they can use this layer 3 out, because this layer 3 out created under the common tenant. Common is what? is a shared services. Where suppose if you have DNS, where do we keep the DNS? So your entire tenants, entire infrastructure should be able to consume that service. So you can keep that all the shared services under the common tenant. That we call that shared infrastructure or shared policy. Okay. Since this is the ISP, whether you have 10 or 20 of separate segregation, you still need that shared services internet. So I have a tenant created here. I do not need to create the anything else. I just make sure that you have appropriate VRF. I have just default, which is a copy and default. I will create one VRF and I will keep this VRF name as, for example, shared VRF. And I will uncheck this bridge domain and just finish. I will do not do any enforce and unenforced thing. Shared is created. Now what I have to do here is I will go to the layer 3 out. There is a separate tab for the layer 3 out. There is a segment routing MPLS, and this is the new feature which is introduced recently, segment routing for the MPLS. But this one, I'm going to create the new layer 3 out. Right click, create layer 3 out. In the layer 3 out, look here, it is giving the flow, how you have to do it. Will tell here the name of the 3 out I'm going to keep. I will keep L3Out ISP. Sorry, L3Out ISP. You can select the protocol if you want to use a dynamic. If you do not want to use a dynamic, you do not need to select these protocol. First, I will go with the dynamic because I have a requirement for dynamic. I will select the OSPF I want to run. Which area you want to run? 0. I want to use regular area. Regular area is what? Area 0. You want to use these subnet, you can use it, or just keep it default, whatever it is. It shouldn't matter. Which VRF? Shared one. Which layer 3 domain? L3 ISP, because I've created that. Use golf? No. If you selected the golf, it means you have a internet connectivity via the spine switch. Okay, which I don't want to use for now. The regular cost value, I will keep it same. Then next. Okay, so which interface type? Saying that, do you want to use this policy with the default name, or you want to create the name for the policies? I want to create the name of the policy. I will uncheck this. You see here, saying that node profile. Node profile is what? I don't want to have a node profile. It means leaf. I will give here node profile 101 because this is the 101 leaf switch, or I can give here leaf 101 node profile. Then I'm so which interface? I want to use the interface, physical interface, routed interface. Don't want to have sub interface, SBI, floating SBI. No. I want to use just plain interface. On which node? Plain interface, router interface, whether it's a port channel or port. I just want to have a port. It's because I have a single port. On this leaf, what should be router ID? I just keep the anything like this. Like this. Router ID will, the moment you will say router ID, it will automatically create one loopback address. Interface, which interface you want to use? 1/5. So like here, you have a node profile. It is also giving the whether you have an interface profile or not. Node profile means node. Interface profile means interface detail. So it is by default creating for you L3Out ISP interface profile. You can change this name also. Okay. As of now, MTU size what I want to give here is 1500. I want to just give a 192.168.101.1/24 and just create next. In the next, OSPF policy it is asking. You can create the OSPF policy where you can say that OSPF ISP policy. Whether you have point-to-point broadcast network, what you have. I will just say the point-to-point. Unspecified means it will auto negotiate. Priority 0, MTU ignore, advertise subnet, you can select it all. I will just keep it default, just broadcast network. Or you can select the unspecified. By default, if you do not select it, it will select as unspecified. Then select node. It will ask you to create the external EPG. What does it mean by external EPG? I will say the external ISP EPG. I will just say the default network uncheck. You can keep it default. It means by default, I want to receive all the routes from external. Here we go. You have a layer 3 out. So if everything is fine, you should be having a neighborship with the ISP. Okay. You should have a neighborship with the ISP. You do not have to do anything else. Okay. From here. Now question is, if we created the layer 3 out over here, let me create one paint. Okay. You have a one tenant. Okay. In the tenant, you have one leaf switch. On the leaf switch, I have one layer 3 out, 1/5 interface, 1/5 interface. On the leaf 101. And I have created a lot of policies on them. Okay. So alongside the layer 3 out on the ACI L3Out, I have run the OSPF everything. Alongside that, I have created one small EPG. There is a two types of EPG, internal EPG, external EPG. Internal EPG purpose is to control the VLAN, okay, for the servers. External EPG is to control the routing table of the layer 3 out. We call that external EPG, which is going to control what you want to import in the routing table, what you want to export in the routing table. That's a simple statement of the external EPG. External EPG will tell you, or you have to tell the external EPG, if any traffic changes, any manipulation, any route map, prefix leaks, anything you want to add, if anything you want to receive or send, import, export, you have to ask the external EPG, because external EPG is an agent of this layer 3 out, which is created on this one interface. So OSPF, EIGRP, static route, whatever it is, it will be controlled via the external EPG, which is sitting over here and controlling all the routes for you. So if I go here, L3 out, if you see the logical, if you click on the L3 out, it will go give you the policy, what it is running. Okay. You can see that I have just L3 out, import, export policy is enforced by default. There is no import. OSPF and BGP can import, which I will tell later. You will see that this is OSPF running. This is all just basic layer 3 out I'm running. Okay. If you see that I have a node profile, which node I'm using, what is the route reflect, what is the ID or router ID of this all. Don't have any static route for now. Just this is. I have an interface profile also where I have an interface associated to this node. Which interface type? Routed interface. This is the routed interface. If it is SVI, floating, routed sub interface, it will show over here. I have just routed interface. If I double click on this one, it will show that what policy it has. Okay, this is the IP address, everything. If I click expand this more, it will go the OSPF policy. What OSPF policy you have applied? You can do the set the authentication, non-authentication, everything you can exchange over here and configure over here. Okay. Then to below all of these, you have an external EPG, which is we created during the creation of the L3 out. And the external EPG, if I get the policy, look here. We have a by default 0.0.0. It means by default we are telling import everything from external network, allow everything from external network, but do not send anything to external network. By default, ACI will not send anything from leaf switch to the external network unless you tell that. So export will be by default blocked inside the ACI. Import will be by default on inside the ACI. Okay. Now, if you want to, for example, if you want to send and receive anything, suppose you have a one bridge domain. I have suppose one tenant. Okay. This is your tenant common. Tenant common. Okay, let's see out. I have one tenant, and that tenant I give a name, for example, DMG services. Tenant DMZ. In the DMZ, I have one EPG, I have one BD, everything. And this, I have a BD, which has an IP address of 10.1.1.2/24. I have EPG, name is 1000, for example, VLAN. And I have one server over here, and that server want to access the internet. This server want to have internet. Now, how are you going to achieve this? Because they are two different tenants, right? Since this, so that's the reason. If you create this layer 3 out ISP inside the DMZ tenant, you will not be able to share this layer 3 out to any of the other tenant. So if you create that layer 3 out in the common tenant, it means you can use that layer 3 out to other tenant as well. That is the meaning of the shared tenant. Okay. So what we have to do here is, so we have to tell this, let me create first layer 3 out. A tenant, one tenant, add one tenant, call that tenant DMZ. VRF I can give here DMZ. You can use the common VRF also. Done. It will create one bridge domain. 10 BD name is 10.1.1.2. Okay. This is just the name of the BD to make sure that everything is visible fine. I will create one subnet. In the subnet, what I have to do here is /24. I will say advertise the external also shared between the VRF. The reason is I have two VRF, DMZ VRF and shared common VRF. Two VRF. So, and since this is the inter VRF routing, I will have to select both the option. I will tell this subnet you need to advertise externally also and between the VRF also. Then finish. I will create the EPG also. I will go and create the EPG 1000. Sorry, application profile, DMZ. All the DMZ app will be over here. Then I will submit. I will create the EPG under the application profile. It's the EPG 1000. Which VD? This VD. I have finished it. I don't want to have as of now any static binding because I don't have any servers or any ports connected to it. So no point of associating anything randomly. Okay. So don't want to have anything for now. So what need to be done in order to make that communication? The very first thing is BD label. We have to say that advertise externally and shared between the VRF. Okay. What next to be done second? Second is we have to tell this BD where you want to advertise because BD doesn't have idea where it want to go. Telling that advertise outside doesn't mean anything. So go to the policy. I will tell BD if you want to, since you have advertised externally, option ticked. If you want to advertise externally, just give me a second, guys. Yeah. So since you on the BD you have told that advertise externally, BD will say that BD has one option, associate layer 3 out. Immediately BD will say that okay, I want to advertise, I have since advertised externally, I will come to this option. I will ask my BD where I have a next hop to advertise. So I have to tell this BD you have a next hop which is a ISP layer 3 which I have created in a common tenant. Look here, layer 3 out. If this layer 3 out is created in different tenant, non-common tenant, it will not visible over here. It is showing over because it is created in the common tenant. I will say that in the common tenant, if you want to advertise this subnet, go your next hop to the ISP layer 3 out. Okay, then this is not enough. I have to create the contract between where? Between the standard EPG to standard external EPG contract I need to create. This is to just to advertise the subnet. Your subnet will be advertising fine now. But your external EPG will not be able to talk to the internal EPG unless you allow them through the one contract, and that contract must be created under the common tenant because this policy is between the two tenants. So you cannot create this contract in the DMZ tenant. Okay, if you create it, it may have a complication. Contract L3 out. Scope is tenant or global. Subject, I want to say that all. Filter is, I will keep it default, so everything should be allowed. Right? Then what will be provider, what will be the consumer over here? Between here. I will do this one as a consumer because the L3 out, this EPG will consume the services which will be provided by the L3 out. L3 out will be always provided to the contract. So I will go to the L3 out. Networking L3 out, external EPG. Okay. Policy, contract. Here I will say that provide this services to the anywhere wherever this contract is being used. Provide. Then I will go to the TMZ layer 3 out. In the EPG, then I will use that consumer as a contract. Right click, consume that contract. I have there. Look here. Okay. So you have end-to-end services now, which will be running fine without any issue. This is, if you see that this is the layer 3. This is the contract you have. If I go to the L3 out and see that external EPG, how it is being advertised. Yeah. Policy, operation, everything. Look here. This is being consumed. Saying that the contract, this EP external EPG is talking to the this EPG which is in DMZ. And here it will show as a packet how many packet it is reaching and which is dropping or sending all these things. Okay. If you want to advertise any subnet to the outside, okay, on the layer 3 out. So you have a policy, you have a here subnet. Here, if you want to, for example, redistribute any subnet, which is internal, I will say that 10.0.0/2016. I want to export this subnet to outside. You can say that export this subnet here. Here you go. Since L3Out is between the VRF, I have to tell BD subnet also over here /16 I have given. I have till that 10.1.1.0/24 export shared control. It means talk to this shared security also. Redistribute this subnet. If you don't want to redistribute, that's fine. But this shared between the VRF is must be enabled. This way, your subnet will advertise outside. If any outside subnet want to talk to your EPG, it will be knowing that okay, I have this subnet in between the VRF, so that particular leaking is enabled on particular subnet. If you don't want to, export because export is already done, you can uncheck this export model also. It's fine because export is by default. You're advertising through that. Okay, so this is your layer 3 out, where this is the basic of layer 3 out. I'm not talking about anything, special tough or anything like that. I just created this step, created a tenant, this domain, EPG, L3 out I have created between the two tenants, okay? Not in single tenant. This is what I have done. In the common tenant, I have created the layer 3 out. In the user tenant, which is the DMZ, I have told this EPG to use this to go outside. I can use the services in the same tenant also. In same tenant, you have a L3 out, EPG, all these things. Okay, so I will be talking through these multiple scenarios. This is the scenario number 1, just plain layer 3 out. But one thing I've missed out, I have not configured the route reflector. Without route reflector configuration, you will able to advertise, you will able to do everything, but you will not, your EPG will not be able to talk to the outside until unless you have a route reflector configured. So make sure that everything will work fine. You will able to form the neighborship, everything, but you will not be able to communicate between the EPG to the L3 out because it will go by the spine switch, and spine switch will say that I do not have eVPN or BGP running on the spine switches. So this is mandatory for you. Also, the question is, since that L3 out is forming here, do I need to redistribute anything between the L3 out to the MPBGP or MPBGP to the L3 out VXLAN? Answer is no. Everything between the L3 out below the here to here is mutually redistributed. So you do not have to do any redistribution in your devices between the leaf and the spine switches. Everything is mutually redistributed between the MPBGP and any layer 3 out which you are forming with the external network. Cisco won't allow you to do any kind of modification to it. Okay, which I'm going to discuss in the next scenario, which I have for layer 3 out. I have just given you the just pure overview, basic of layer 3 out. Layer 3 out is a huge topic. Okay, I'm going to show multiple scenarios. So if you see that here, anything which you have created is mutually redistributed. Whatever you are learning from L3 out OSPF, by default it will advertise into the OSPF, sorry, MPBGP to the route reflector, and then route reflector will share the route to the all the other switches where you have. So this we call that mutual redistribution. I'm not sure this is a virtual lab, but I can show where I can show you. For example, if I go to the inventory, leaf switch, I go to the leaf switch, this one, to protocol. If I go to the OSPF which I am running, let's see. Yeah, look here. What is saying here? So on this is the OSPF. OSPF, so the inter protocol leaking into the OSPF. It means OSPF by default redistributing where? BGP, COOP protocol, EIGRP, static, everything. So you do not, if you have a leaf switches where you have external connectivity, and this is your all the servers are connected over here, you just care about the logical connectivity. Okay, VXLAN MPBGP redistribution By default, whatever leaf is learning is redistributing into the route reflector. So redistribution is by default mutually enabled. This we call the mutual redistribution. Since this is a virtual, it should not have any neighborship anything. But if you see that here, this is what it is. By default route map is created. Look here. For you with the 0.0.0.0/0, which I will be discussing what exactly meaning of this. Okay. Any questions? Can be done ISIS to the external network? Answer is no. You cannot run ISIS over here. Okay.
So from the fabric to the L3 out, the external device, we are not running BGP. We are running OSPF.
OSPF.
Still, the BGP route which is coming through the from the external, it will be getting redistributed automatically to the fabric.
Fabric, yes. So
Okay.
if you see that here, even this route. So if you see the inter-tenant route, we just say that BD, check the two settings, create the contract, it will automatically redistribute this route into here. We are not doing anything into the VXLAN, right? We are simply telling the BD, check these two options, that's it. Remaining programming will be done by the internal MPBGP.
Okay. So now you have created this for this OSPF interface between the fabric to this external router, but you have shown on the fabric itself. This is for only it is visual because it is a virtual environment. We cannot configure both sides, right? That means on the
Exactly, yeah,
router.
that's right. I don't have
Oh,
a router. In real scenario also, you will not have a router to configure. Okay, because
uh,
that's ISP part to do it.
okay. Um,
Okay.
okay. So
I will
one
be
thing.
going deep dive into the L3 out. Okay, this is just a basic. So if you have any doubt, please let me know that.
Okay. One more basic question. So,
Mhm.
in the ACI control plane, it will be the control plane protocol always COOP or MPBGP.
So there's a MPBGP is a VXLAN control plane. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
not there is separate MP COOP protocol runs to update the proxy table of the leaf switches to the spine, local station table, global station table, LSTGST. LSTGST will not be advertised via the MPBGP because MPBGP is for the tunneling, not between the leaf and spine routing or the MAC address and IP address exchange. For that, we have separate protocol we call the COOP protocol, which is only dedicated for the between the whatever leaf switch is learning is going to exchange with the spine switch.
Okay, for endpoint learning from the leaf to spine, COOP is being used,
Exactly.
and for VXLAN tunnel, it will be between the leaves. It will be MPBGP.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. But in general Nexus, it is all done by BGP itself, right? The
Yeah. In general, yes. In general, basically, leaf switches does not even share that local endpoint detail to the spine switches, right? In
no that
Nexus.
no yeah that is done right means through how the spine having those
Yeah. The
information.
reason is, yeah, because spine switches, we were using the RP,
Uh,
randomness point, right?
yeah.
But here we are not using RP. We are using the F tag along with the COOP protocol. So you can say that multicast has been replaced with the COOP,
Hmm.
which is exchanging the endpoint detail.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any further questions?
So, Bijay, can you go for the previous tab? Like, there you mentioned the two tenant, right? So in this case, can we communicate one tenant to another tenant to using something?
Yeah, obviously we can do it. Yeah. We have to. create the contract. So I will be covering that part also.
Then
Suppose if you
then
have a one DNS EPG over here, right? DNS
yeah.
EPG over here, and you have one EPG's servers EPGs are sitting over here, right? So you still need to make the communication, right, between them.
Then in this case, then we can extend this external EPG to that way, right?
I'm not getting your point.
No, the L3 out external EPG you are connecting to L3 out, right? And to advertising this L3 out, you are using something here from external EPG to this
Contract.
contract, right?
Yeah.
Instead of this, you can connect one tenant to another tenant. In that way, we can extend our L3 out also, right?
You mean between the tenant you can use L3 out?
Yes.
Obviously, you can have a firewall because that scenario is applicable to the many clients I have deployed. So if you have DMZ tenant and common tenant, right? Some customer, let me show that in the real scenario, which I have done for the one customer. Which customer was that? Multi-care, no, they're not multi-care. Just give me a second. Huh? Might have somewhere. RC. This is the insurance customer. Recently, I've deployed for them. ACI design. Yeah. Let's see if I'm able to open this. Download anyways. This is the same design, right? No, this is not the one. And Bhutan, RSA not RSA LD. RSA LD. Okay. So this I deployed last year only. Full their multi-site ACI. So if you see that here, this was their DC, okay, 2 data center, and we wanted to convert into the ACI. So we did hybrid migration. 80% we migrated to the AVS Azure VM-based solution, and 20% to the co-location. So let me, if I downloaded this, let me show this because it should be opening here. Oh, come on. Yeah, मेरे पास आई थिंक लैपटॉप में इस वाले वो नहीं है, तो डिफरेंट लैपटॉप देखना पड़ेगा. और let me download this. PDF. मैं लैपटॉप स्विच किया हूँ ना, so really messed up everything. मैं दिखाता हूँ आपको जो आप बोल रहे हो ना. Deployed. मैं सेपरेट डिजाइन की क्लास ही लूंगा, है ना, इन ऑफ द डे में. यहाँ पास आपको जैसे ये पास माइग्रेशन की मैं एक क्लास दूंगा जिसमें से आई विल शोइंग यू हियर माइग्रेशन कैसे रियल टाइम में जो मैं किया हूँ ना एक्सपीरियंस. एटलीस्ट आई हैव डिप्लॉयड 7-8 ACI प्रोजेक्ट्स. आई जस्ट डू द कॉन्ट्रैक्टिंग नॉट द फुल टाइम. अगर आप देखोगे ना, NSX सोल्यूशन था इसके साथ, NSX विद द ACI. सो अगर देखोगे ये वाला, ठीक, उनके पास 2 डेटा सेंटर थे. जिसको हमने क्या किया था, मेरे पास अभी HLD वो डायग्राम ओपन नहीं हो रहा, जिसमें फायरवॉल भी लगा के हमने रखा है. दिस वाज MPLS, राइट. Also they had internet, everything, the connectivity, and between the data center they had separate dedicated link which they were using. Logical कहाँ है? Logical. ये देखो, ये माइग्रेशन के लिए मैंने कनेक्ट किया था, 2 लिंक कनेक्ट किया था अपने स्विचेस से देयर एग्जिस्टिंग डेटा सेंटर। एंड ये हमारे पास ग्लोबल एमपीएलएस था जिसमें से अज्यूर ब्रांच नेटवर्क सब कुछ बात कर रहा था मेरे नेटवर्क से इधर। ठीक, तो फिजिकल होगा, ये होगा लॉजिकल। दिस इज वी कॉल दैट लॉजिकल नाउ। ये सर्वर कनेक्टिविटी का है। ऑल दिस, सो कुछ ज्यादा बड़ी बना दी थी क्या मैंने? ये देखो आप, ये लॉजिकल डिजाइन है आपके इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर। ओके, मेरे पास क्या था, एक टेनेंट था।
हम्म,
एक टेनेंट था, इसका नाम था आरएसए ग्लोबल। मैंने मल्टीपल टेनेंट नहीं बनाए थे, इसमें से मल्टीपल वीआरएफ मैंने बनाए थे। रिप्लिकेशन हो गया, प्रोड हो गया, एनएसएक्स हो गया, डब्ल्यूआरएफ हो गया, प्री प्रोडक्शन हो गया, डीएमजी हो गया, बहुत सारे वीआरएफ मैंने बना दिए थे क्योंकि कस्टमर कंफ्यूज ना हो, क्योंकि कस्टमर को टेनेंट पता नहीं था क्या होता है ना। तो उसको मैंने वीआरएफ में सब डिवाइड कर दिया। अब वीआरएफ डिवाइड करने के बाद इधर देखोगे कॉमन टेनेंट में मैंने क्या कर दिया, एमपीएलएस कनेक्ट कर दिया।
हम्म,
एमपीएलएस जितने भी वीआरएफ थे, जिसको जिसको बात करनी थी, सब एमपीएलएस के थ्रू बात कर रहे थे इधर। ठीक, अगर दोनों वीआरएफ को एक दूसरे से बात भी करनी है ना, इन दोनों वीआरएफ को, जो कि रिक्वायरमेंट थी नहीं ऐसे, उन पे भी आप ऐसे बात कर सकते थे। क्योंकि ये वीआरएफ जो है ना, कोई कोई एनएसएक्स में ही बात करना चाहते थे, तो एमपी बीजीपी के थ्रू बात करते थे वो, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के थ्रू। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का भी सेपरेट डिजाइन बनाया हुआ है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कैसे काम करेगा। ये देखो ऐसे, ये तो,
हम्म,
ये आपके पास, सॉरी, मल्टीपल्स, जैसे दो डेटा सेंटर है, दो डेटा सेंटर के बीच में स्ट्रेच कैसे होगा नेटवर्क, वीआरएफ टू वीआरएफ, सब चीजें है ना। शेयर्ड सर्विसेज कैसे काम करेंगी, मैनेजमेंट कैसे काम करेगा, एंड दिस ऑल द स्टूपिड थिंग। ओके, ये सब all this sitting there. जब आप एक बार डिजाइन करोगे ना, यू विल, बट बिफोर डिजाइन यू मस्ट नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट व्हाट एग्जैक्टली राउटिंग लुक्स लाइक एंड हाउ द लेयर 3 आउट शुड वर्क विद ऑल दिस डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन एवरीथिंग। कुछ डिजाइन में चेंजेस हमने किया था बट नॉट शोइंग ओवर हियर। वो सब पे विजियो पे है, विजियो का एक्सेस मेरे पास, ये देखो कैसे काम कर रहा है मेरा। ये इन टू इन फ्लो मैंने बना के दिया था उनको कि यू हैव एनएसएक्स आल्सो राइट। एनएसएक्स भी कनेक्टेड है आपके लीप के स्विच के साथ, जिसके साथ बीजीपी फॉर्म हो रहा है आपके पास, ये बीजीपी एनएसएस के साथ,
हम्म,
दो डेटा सेंटर के बीच में। आपके पास ग्लोबल टेनेंट में, ग्लोबल टेनेंट है जिसमें से इतने सारे वीआरएफ है। सो एनएसएक्स का ना सबके साथ कम्युनिकेशन भी होना चाहिए, ये भी रिक्वायरमेंट थी। प्लस एनएसएक्स का जो है ना कम्युनिकेशन होना चाहिए शेयर्ड सबनेट के साथ, जो ब्रांच नेटवर्क है उनको भी एनएसएस की सर्विसेज एक्सेस करनी चाहिए थी। जो एवीएस है उसको भी एनएसएस की सर्विसेज एक्सेस करनी चाहिए थी। जो यहाँ पास कुछ सर्वर है, उसको भी एनएसएस की कुछ सर्विसेज, एवीएस की कुछ सर्विसेज एक्सेस करनी पड़ती थी। और इंटरनेट क्या था ना, यहाँ पास इंटरनेट भी था, बस वो एमपीएलएस के थ्रू इंटरनेट था, क्योंकि वोडाफोन जो था ना ग्लोबल सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करता है, उसको आप एमपीएलएस की तरह यूज करो। पर आप वोडाफोन को बोल दो इस वाले सबनेट के लिए इंटरनेट भी चाहिए, तो इंटरनेट भी उसी एक ही लिंक से प्रोवाइड कर देता है, शेयर सर्विसेज को, उससे
हम्म,
थोड़ा कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव रहता है। बट दिस इज हाउ यू डू इट राइट, दिस इज द काइंड ऑफ वन सेट ऑफ वे हाउ टू डू इट, सेग्रीगेशन ऑल दिस थिंग्स। इसका नेक्स्ट जनरेशन वर्जन भी होगा कहीं पे बनाया होगा। ओके, जैसे ये हो गया आपके पास आउट ऑफ बैंड मैनेजमेंट कैसे काम करेगा। जितने स्विचेस हैं सबका आउटर मैनेजमेंट सिर्फ टेनेंट मैनेजमेंट में कनेक्ट होगा। फिर टेनेंट मैनेजमेंट से एक लेयर 3 आउट मैंने निकाला हूँ, जो कि एमपीएलएस एंड एक विप्रो के लिए जाएगा, नॉक टीम के लिए। फिर नॉक टीम वाला स्टैटिक राउट के थ्रू आएगा। जो एमपीएलएस उसके पास ऑलरेडी ईबीजीपी चल रहा है, जो कि अजूर में बैठे हुए कुछ क्लाइंट है, उनको भी बीडीआई के थ्रू एक्सेस कर पाए सब चीजें, है ना। सो ऑल दिस थिंग्स यू हैव टू बी रियली थिंक, लाइक इंटरनेट कैसे काम करेगा, इतने सारे ब्रांचेस हैं, नेटवर्क, हर चीज है। वोडाफोन एमपीएलएस के पास जाएगा, देन एमपीलेस वोडाफोन डिसाइड करेगा किधर जाना है, उसको बोलते हैं एनबीआईएस और एसआईजी, इंटरनेट एक्सेस। सिक्योरिटी का कंप्लायंस क्या होगा, लोड बैलेंसिंग कैसे काम करेगा आपके एनएसएक्स में, ऑल दिस थिंग्स लाइक एनएसएक्स जब आप इंटीग्रेट करते हो लॉजिकली कैसे काम करेगा, how it gonna looks like, how it gonna create the transport zone, APGs and everything. So as I said, a lot of things need to be covered. Um, will be covered. Don't worry about it. Hmm. Any other question, guys? जैसे रेप्लिकेशन कैसे काम करेगा दो डेटा सेंटर में है सर्वर्स पे, है ना, लाइक हाउ दीज ईपीजीज विल, अगर कोई भी सर्वर है दो डेटा सेंटर में, है ना,
So
नया सर्वर रखा हुआ है, तो सेम ही ईपीजी रहेगा, एक्सटेंड होगा बिटवीन द डेटा सेंटर वीएक्सएन सोल्यूशन के थ्रू, क्योंकि आप इंटीग्रेट कर सकते हो
So
ये।
for that we have multi-site concept, right?
मल्टी पोर्ट, ये सोल्यूशन जो है ना मेरा मल्टी पोर्ट था, है ना। मल्टी साइट हम लोग सोल्यूशन मल्टी पोर्ट का लैब का मैं वीडियो आपको शेयर करूंगा, थ्योरी कवर करूंगा, क्योंकि उसमें मैं प्रैक्टिकल रियल लैब में प्रोडक्शन में कर रहा हूँ मैं, एंड टू एंड। जो मल्टी साइट है उसका मैं स्क्रैच से वीडियो, आप स्क्रैच से लैब शो करूंगा आपको।
Okay.
मोस्टली आजकल मल्टी साइट ही चल रहा है, बट जब कस्टमर को बोलो ना कि पैसे ज्यादा लगते हैं मल्टी साइट में, तो दे प्रेफर टू गो विद मल्टी पोर्ट।
मल्टी प्रोड क्या होता है एग्जैक्टली?
मल्टी पोर्ट होता है कि सिंगल एपिक नोड जो है ना, वही दोनों
हाँ,
डेटा सेंटर को मैनेज करेगा,
अच्छा।
और उसके एक्स्ट्रा लाइसेंस परचेज नहीं करना पड़ता है। जब मल्टी साइट होता है ना, उसमें थर्ड क्लस्टर बनाना पड़ता है, जिसको बोलते हैं एनडीओ, नेक्सस डैशबोर्ड, उसका यूज होता है एनडी।
अच्छा, डुअल डुअल एपिक क्लस्टर रहेगा उधर।
अलग अलग एपिक क्लस्टर आएगा अलॉन्ग साइड द, आप तीसरा भी, दो एपिक क्लस्टर प्लस एक और क्लस्टर बनाना पड़ेगा, जिसको बोलते हैं एनडीओ, नेक्सस डैशबोर्ड ऑर्केस्ट्रेटर,
हम्म।
क्योंकि जियो बेस पे अलग अलग होता है वो, है ना। ऑलराइट गाइस, then I'm concluding here. Okay, we'll be resuming on Friday. Friday में ही टॉपिक सेम ही रहेगा, L3 out with the bit more deep dive. Okay, so total three classes में L3 out की लूंगा, we gonna more deep into it. Okay,
Okay.
all right guys, thank you.
You
Thank
Have a
you.
nice